Let's talk about energy. And no, I don't mean the caffeine in your mug or some vague vibe in a room. We're going to talk about the real deal, the fundamental biological engine that is literally keeping you alive at this very second. We're talking about your body's own internal high-voltage electrical system.
So think about this for a second. We see meditation as, sitting quietly on a cushion. But what if that endless scrolling you do on your phone, that hours-long deep dive into the screen, is actually a form of intense, single-pointed focus? And what if that focus is accidentally flipping a very, very powerful switch inside of you, but without any of the safety instructions?
Now, you've probably heard the word kundalini. It sounds pretty mystical, right? Something you'd find in a book like Autobiography of a Yogi. But for our purposes, I want you to forget all that. We need to think about this mechanically. It is not a metaphor. It is the raw biological juice that powers your heart, your lungs, your brain. It's your personal power source.
And here is the first major myth we have to just throw out the window. This energy isn't asleep somewhere inside you. I mean, if it were, you'd literally be dead. The truth is, it's always on. For most of us, it's just operating at about 1 to 10% capacity, kind of like your phone on low power mode, just enough to keep the basic apps running.
So what happens when something stirs that energy up beyond that little 10%? Well, if the system isn't ready for it, things can go spectacularly wrong. And to really get why, we need to pull up the schematic, the literal wiring diagram of your internal energy body.
Okay, so what you're looking at here is basically the circuit board for your nervous system. You've got 3 main wires. Down the middle, you have sushumna. That's the superhighway, the pristine fiber optic cable. That's where you want the energy to flow for balance and clarity. But on either side, you have 2 other paths. Ida on the left, which is kind of like your internal cooling system for your mind and emotions, and Pingala on the right, which is your furnace, driving all your physical action. It's all designed to work in perfect harmony.
But here's the kicker. Modern life, stress, trauma, bad food, just not moving enough, it clogs up that central highway. It's like a massive traffic jam. So when this extra energy tries to rise, it hits a roadblock and gets violently shoved down one of those side roads. It's like a dam bursting and all that water flooding the small towns next to the river.
And this is what's so fascinating. It creates 2 totally different kinds of disaster. When the energy floods that left channel, Ada, you get a full-blown psychological crisis. I mean, you listen to people on shows like The Diary of a CEO or the Mel Robbins podcast talk about burnout, and you're hearing the exact symptoms: deep depression, panic attacks, old stuff coming back up. But if it overloads the right channel, Pingala, it's physical torment. People describe feeling like they're literally on fire inside, chronic inflammation, organ stress. It's not random, it's a diagnostic chart.
And look, this isn't just theory. There's the famous case of Gopi Krishna from back in the day. The guy meditated like crazy but completely neglected his physical body, and he ended up in years of agonizing internal burning, a textbook Pingala overload. And today, researchers like Dr. Bonnie Greenwell have documented so many modern cases of what they call spiritual emergencies. He essentially built a race car engine but forgot to install the radiator.
So, if the whole problem is just clogged pipes, then the solution isn't some super complex, mystical ritual. It's actually just simple, practical maintenance. And our guide for this has spent his entire life taking these ancient sciences and boiling them down into a simple, results-based approach.
Let me introduce you to our source. His name is Osman, and he's also known as the blind Muslim yogi. Now, this man is a master bioenergy healer with 50 years of advanced practice under his belt, specializing in critical and terminal illnesses. We're talking about someone who, at his peak, was practicing for up to 18 hours a day. And what's really important to know is that he only became blind in May of 2023. So when he describes these energy systems, he's doing it with a lifetime of visual memory. He's not a philosopher. Think of him as a frontline technician for the human body.
And his whole philosophy is so simple, but it's really profound. He says the energy wants to rise. It's naturally buoyant, kind of like a cork in water. So your job isn't to force it or awaken it. Your job is just to clean the pipes, to get all the junk out of the way so it can flow where it's supposed to go. It's really the core of what people like Tony Robbins are talking about when they say get into a peak state. It's all about preparation.
So how do we actually do this pipe cleaning? He's got a simple 3-part protocol. Number 1, balance with your breath, specifically alternate nostril breathing, which neuroscientists like Andrew Huberman have shown directly balances your nervous system. Number 2, flush the system with movement, intense physical exercise, weights, cardio, you name it. And number 3, refine with study.
Give that rising energy a constructive job to do with deep intellectual focus. Now, take someone like Joe Rogan. You listen to his podcast and he talks about these high-voltage experiences that would probably fry the average person's circuits. So why can he handle it? Well, Osman's hypothesis is that it's his insane physical regimen. It lines up with what you hear on the Huberman Lab podcast about building nervous system capacity. When your physical foundation is rock solid, your ability to handle intense stimulus just skyrockets. Rogan's pipes are clear because he is constantly flushing them with hard work.
Okay, but this whole thing isn't just about preventing a meltdown. Once you get the system balanced, that's when the real payoff begins. We are talking about unlocking a level of performance that you probably don't even think is possible.
Let me give you a real-world case study. A professional fighter named David. This guy was already an elite athlete, but he had hit a wall, a really hard plateau. He could max out at exactly 120 push-ups in one go before he was completely toast.
So after just 14 days of following Osman's protocol to unblock his system, his max output jumped to 200 push-ups. That is not a small gain. That is a nearly 70% increase in his physical capacity. See, when you remove all that internal friction in those blockages, all that energy that was being wasted is now free to be used for performance.
And this efficiency, it goes beyond just the physical. It actually changes your social life. An unbalanced system is basically broadcasting signals of stress and instability. But a balanced, centered system, it broadcasts vitality, calm, and stability. It's that presence or charisma that you hear people like Lewis Howes talk about on the School of Greatness. You are literally changing your biological signal, and it makes you magnetic to other people on a primal level.
But honestly, the ultimate benefit might just be cognitive. When that energy rises cleanly up that central channel, it supercharges your brain function. And maybe most importantly, as you hear from so many practitioners on shows like Boot at the Gas Pump, it gives you the ability to see nuance, to hold complex, contradictory ideas in your head in a world that is screaming at you to pick a side.
Now, it's really crucial that we understand the specific nature of Osman's work. He draws a very thick, clear line between the foundational practices that are for everybody and his own very high-level, specialized healing work.
Osman is very clear about this. When he does his healing work with the terminally ill, which uses principles of quantum entanglement, it's a profound energy transfer. It is incredibly draining and frankly dangerous for him. He is essentially pouring his own life force into someone else's depleted system. It takes him 8 to 10 hours of intense practice every single day just to maintain that ability without destroying himself. And that right there is why his one-on-one healing is a premium service. It's not inexpensive, and it is reserved for people in dire, critical, life or death situations. And it is always offered as a complementary therapy, something to enhance, not replace, conventional medical treatment. He's like an emergency room surgeon for your energy system, not your family doctor. So what's your path forward from here? Well, the best place for literally everyone to start is with the foundational stuff we've talked about. Osman has made this super accessible in a completely free 5-minute program you can download from his website, yogawellness786.com. If you want to dive deeper, his YouTube channel has a ton of free information. The paid services, like his Patreon, are for people who want direct guidance or, of course, for those facing those critical health situations.
And I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. If all of us, billions of us, are spending hours a day in this accidental meditation with our screens, constantly stirring this powerful internal energy, but our collective pipes are more clogged up with stress and junk than ever before, could it be that the massive spike in anxiety, burnout, and polarization we see all around us are actually the symptoms of a mass, involuntary, and totally botched awakening? Just something to think about.